of Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission on the 11th of July. I hope everybody had a good 4th. And Clerk Meadows, would you call the roll, please? See if we have a quorum.
Sure. Chair Orth,
Here.
Commissioner Ignacio, Commissioner Ward, Commissioner Frohnberger,
Here.
Commissioner Roden,
Here.
Commissioner McGorty, Commissioner Mulhern,
Here.
Commissioner Winkle, Commissioner Gonzalez,
Present.
Commissioner Haschak. Thank you.
And thank you for those who have come during the summer period. We do have a quorum, so we can move on. Our first order is AB 361, and we will have a separate agenda item to talk about future meetings. So would you please, Uma, take over for AB 361?
Sure. I would also like to note for the record that Commissioner McGorty has joined us and that alternate Commissioner Gonzalez will be seated for Commissioner Ignacio until he arrives.
Thank you.
So on my pages here, on page 4 of your agenda packet, we have resolution 2022-2301, making continued findings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361 to conduct remote public meetings for the commission and its standing committees during a proclaimed state of emergency due to COVID-19 pandemic.
I'm looking for a motion to approve a resolution 2022-2301 to continue meeting remotely.
Could I just note something real quick? In
Sure.
the body of the section on the agenda, it actually says 2021-2210 instead of 2310.
Thank you.
Good catch. You must be reading it.
Do you wish to make a motion then to approve?
I will make the motion with the amended name.
Thank you.
Second, Mulhern.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion on the motion? Any public wishing to speak to the commission about meeting remotely in AB 361? All right, seeing none, Clerk Meadows, go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Frohnberger,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulhern,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Chair Orth.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. At this point in time, we go to public expression. Members of the public can be limited to 3 minutes. And so let's go ahead and open to public expression. Any member of the public present who wishes to speak on any item not on today's agenda, please unmute yourself and we will recognize you. I'm seeing none. So with that, we'll move directly to item 4, the consent calendar. Do commissioners have any of the 4A through 4D that you wish to pull for further discussion before a motion to approve? Mr. Ward.
Yeah, thank
Commissioner
you.
Ward.
Thank you, Tony. Just a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to say that our minutes, I keep saying this over and over, our minutes are well done. They're very explicit, and I appreciate the work that our clerk does. Thank you very much. It's easy to read, and usually don't find any errors. I think it's appropriate to bring up maybe at this time with the claims. I don't have any issues with the claims, but we are, excuse me, we're having a few issues with the two signatures on our checks. And every time I call the bank to approve our claims or our checks, they say it only requires one and they don't know where to find them and this or that. So I would like to sit down with Uma and maybe come up with a plan of how we can do that. There is a feature in Savings Bank that allows bill pay that somehow if we could come up with a system of paying them and then having the treasurer, whether it be me or somebody in the future, approves them from that aspect. But calling the bank has been a real problem here because they're saying we only need one signature. We don't need two. So if it's okay, I'd like to meet with Uma and see if we can come up with a plan of how we can better pay our claims or sign the checks without having to hassle it, being a hassle.
I think I would recommend that the two of you meet to actually go to the bank and have a meeting with one of the bank officers and discuss this matter because we are a public agency with specific requirements. I think they really need to pay attention to their customers, being a public agency in particular with the fact that we have provisions that need to be followed in the banking industry, and maybe that will go a ways to resolving the issues you keep having. Is that okay, Uma?
Yes, I would be happy to meet with Jerry or Commissioner Ward for that and the bank.
And fellow commissioners, do you agree? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Then I'll look for a motion to approve today's consent calendar. Mari, go ahead.
So move. I move we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any members of the public or commissioners have any further say on our consent calendar today? Commissioner Farnberger, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So on, sorry, I'm going to make you look at pages here. On page 13 of 142, the staff report for claims and financial report for June of 2022. Account 6740 is for stipends and travel. Is that correct? I'm understanding that correct?
Correct, in-county travel and stipends.
Okay, and the stipends covers monthly stipends for board members?
Yes, for regular meeting participation.
Okay, we have not had anything drawn on that account in either April or May, only in June. Is that?
So it's up to the commissioners to submit claims for that stipend, and Commissioner Winkle has been the only one to do so. And
Okay.
he did not submit for those 2 months.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Okay, any further questions by any commissioners or members of the public? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so Clerk Meadows, would you call the roll?
Yes. Excuse me. Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Fronberger,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulhern,
Yes.
Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chair Orth.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. And with that, we'll go directly into number 5. Today will be a public hearing. We do have one today. That will be County Service Area 3 Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Study. This is a continued public hearing. And we'll first go to staff before we go to the public and open the public hearing. Uma?
Thank you, Chair Orth. As you noted, this is a continuance of the public hearing for the County Service Area 3 Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Study. This is the first for the agency. Our analyst, Larkin Filer, will be doing the presentation today. I do want to note that we have Howard Dashiell from the county, and as well as Darcy Antle. And so they will be available for questions following our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
So, with that, let's see, the time is 9:11 and I'll open the public hearing at 9:11. Do any members of the public wish to speak on this matter?
Actually, Chair Orth, we have a presentation before we get started.
Okay, so you're going to Larkin.
Yes,
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, very well.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And just let me know when you can see it, please. Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. As noted already, this is a public hearing to consider CSA 3 MSR and SOI study that was continued from June 6th to allow staff time to address mapping errors. Please note that the public comment period also remains open at this time. The June public hearing staff report and video recording are part of the public record for this proceeding today, and there are links to those resources in the staff report for this item, which starts on page 27 of the packet. As background, CSA 3 was formed in 1974 to provide ambulance services to the City of Point Arena area, and in 1985, the district boundaries were expanded to cover all unincorporated areas of the county. As you can see on this map, the cities of Fort Bragg, Willits, and Ukiah are excluded from the CSA 3 boundary. CSA 3 has been a longstanding inactive district, and this is the first MSR-SOI study prepared for this county-dependent district. CSA 3 does not currently provide any services and has no facilities, equipment, infrastructure, personnel, or reoccurring revenue. The county is working on providing district services through a LAFCO activation of latent powers application, which would allow for the establishment of zones of benefit as a funding mechanism to provide additional services to various areas of the county. On page 28 of the packet is a list of revisions made in the study since the June hearing. The CSA 3 boundary map and description were corrected to reflect the current or the historic 1953 CSA law, allowing for automatic detachment from a CSA upon city annexation or incorporation. And this provision was in effect until 2009. There is no record of an existing SOI for CSA 3, so this study will establish instead of update the district's SOI. The study recommends that the Commission establish a service-specific sphere of influence for CSA 3 that is limited to the future Sherwood Firewise Community Zone of Benefit for road maintenance of emergency access routes. And you can see the boundary of that service-specific sphere shown in red on the image here. And then staff also recommends that the Commission designate an area of interest for enhanced interagency coordination for the Ukiah Hills or the Ukiah Eastern Hills area, which is shown in the green hatching in this image. And then also for the fire service gap areas, which are shown in red on this figure, and also the water service gap areas, which are shown in red on this image. Staff recommends that the Commission find the CSA 3 MSR-SOI study exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act and adopt resolution number 2022-2302 to approve the study as further detailed in the staff report on page 27 of the packet. As Uma mentioned, there is county staff available to answer questions today, and that does conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Larkin. Uma, do you have anything further to say before we go to the public hearing?
Nothing to add. Thank you, Chair Orth.
Commissioners, do any commissioner? Commissioner McGortney, go ahead.
So I want to get this clear. The last point about the CSA3s was about water, and what I go over that again for me because I didn't quite catch everything. So we have these water districts that are all over the county, and what is their relation to CSA3s?
Nothing.
Nothing. But is there? You're just making a point that they exist.
Correct. So what is proposed at this time is a small sphere of influence for the Sherwood Firewise Community Project. We have also identified areas of interest, which are not on the same level as a sphere of influence. They are just identified for enhanced coordination purposes in the future. So yes, we have identified the gaps between service providers, both for fire agencies and water agencies. And so those gap areas are proposed for basically just to note that we want to make sure that those areas that don't provide those services, that there's an enhanced level of coordination between agencies and moving forward.
So thinking about some of our issues with water, is it possible to use the CSA3 to fund parts of the county that need additional funding to implement infrastructure or otherwise manage resources?
Let me chime in because I've been pushing county service area potential for some time, and I do believe that the CSA law does give you the opportunity to set up benefit zones. Using the example of the Russian River, Potter Valley issue, I do believe the way to answer criticism from supervisors in the coastal zone that don't seem to concur with using the sales tax revenue base for raising funds for water purposes, that the county has the opportunity to use CSA law to specifically delineate benefit zones that can help the county in regulating its responsibilities or putting together a coalition to work on a specific benefit that you identify, and then do the 218 study to go to a property election to so charge based upon those benefits that are assigned, and a dollar value based upon the proposal that you put forward to whether it's staffing or pursuing a given water right or responding to an existing water district that wants to provide service outside its own. For example, interties between, say, Willits and Brick Trails pass through county zone and does not occur within the water district service areas of either Willits or Brick Trails. Very similar to the emergency access over private roads. These exist outside of the boundaries of existing districts. So there are things that you can look at, I think, under CSA law that might allow the Board of Supervisors to provide a added benefit and service level to given areas of our citizenry based upon need. So I do think, and I'll let staff chime in now and either contradict me or support that statement.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. I think this is a very important and also complex question. So we are basically recommending that there be further coordination for all areas within CSA3 that are not already receiving water services. That will require a considerable amount of effort, both on the part of the county staff and also existing water agencies to determine what that would actually look like, and then ultimately how the funding might work for that, and also the main piece of this is that when applications come forward to activate powers, we have to be able to determine that there's no duplication of services with existing service providers. So both, the funding piece and ensuring that there's not overlap between agencies and the services provided are going to be the two pieces that are going to be most critical in understanding the feasibility moving forward. And I do want to note that, while this study is, it's our statutory obligation to establish a sphere for this agency because they do not have one. And in 2019, it was determined that this agency is not ripe for dissolution. So we do need to establish a sphere, just as, the order of business. But, this is going to be a long-term conversation about how CSA 3 will take shape and, the best way to move forward in providing services. And I know as LAFCO staff, we will continue to be part of that conversation and help direct the process as best we can beyond the study as well.
So there's kind of two areas right now in water that I think are very important. One of them is trying to raise enough funds for all things associated with the transferring of water rights from the Eel River diversions that PG&E owns to also funding the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. So right now we really haven't identified a pathway, and I'm just wondering if this could be some of them. The other thing that's going on for water users is that the Sonoma Water has received a grant to organize all water users on the Russian River so that in the future we can monetize whatever diversions occur. For instance, right now I have 2 water rights. Basically, if there's water available, the only fee I pay is the cost of pumping it. And in the future, I would expect to be paying something for that water because right now, water's been quite inexpensive because essentially PG&E abandons water after using it. So these are examples of things that I'm wondering if a CSA 3 could fund.
And you've put out good questions for your staff to look at and work with, look at other counties. But also, it's of course a unique issue that you bring up here in Mendocino County, and I'll go to Commissioner Frauenberger.
Yeah, thank you. Am I unmuted? Yeah. So let me just speak to one of the topics that Chair Orr spoke to about the intertime between Brook Trails and Willets. Currently, that's able to be done between those two entities. The addition of this CSA 3 would actually add a third entity into the bureaucracy, which could actually potentially slow it down and give a veto vote outside of the 2 districts that are affected. So just be aware of that when you speak about that connection. So going to page 45 of 142, it seems that the CSA 3 was completely inactive from November of 1997 until November of 2018. Is that correct? Anybody?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Frauenberger, I was just getting to that page. So that is correct. So in November 2018 is when the State Controller's Office sent out notice of the potential of CSA 3 as an inactive district status. So that is when the process started for determining whether it was ripe for dissolution.
So my question is, how did it go that long with nothing happening? Did it just fall off of everybody's radar, or?
I do believe so. And I know that there was a number of staffing changes in that time. So I think it was a combination of falling off of people's radars, and then also, we just had changes in staffing.
Well, I can imagine that that's 11 years with nothing going on, that there'd be a lot of changes within the county. So skipping down the page a little bit, it looks that there was just barely made it in within the 90 days. And then November 4th of 2021, the SCO once again said that it's an inactive special district. And the LAFCO in a year, 3 months later, made a determination that it wasn't. And what was the criteria for making that a active district again, even though it still hadn't done anything?
Through the chair, again, this
Yes.
is Analyst Filer.
Mhm.
So there's not necessarily a large number of criteria for maintaining it as an active district. Essentially, we would have to determine that it was inactive based on the criteria. We have been working with county staff for, I believe, since 2018, 2019, to proceed with bringing this agency back into the potential for providing services. So I believe it was, again, there is funding that has been put into the agency's finances. And so that's one of the criteria that allows it to remain as an active district, as opposed to determining it was inactive. And I believe
Correct me
EO
if-
Hinman could answer that as
I was
well.
going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but it needs to be more than just a savings account that's been sitting down, hiding outside the county coffers.
Before I ask Howard Daschel to speak to this, I will say that the Sherwood Firewise Group engaged a practice out of Sacramento that has specialized in CSA law and began the process to develop the CSA process, the 218 process, to engage the public with setting up a benefit zone. And so that started about that time. Also, when we revitalized CSA 3, it was at the recommendation of the two sitting supervisors at that time, who have now retired. So institutional memory does come and go with electeds, sometimes in 4-year cycles, sometimes in 10 or 14-year cycles. So the discovery that CSA even existed did come up in the initial notice by the change in law that gave a state agency the review and the process to notify counties of inactive districts. So it's sort of a new process that occurred, which has brought this subject up to the County of Mendocino, and the County of Mendocino has been engaging in trying to develop a CSA process since that time. And Uma, go ahead. I'll defer to you to further answer.
Actually, I think you captured what I was going to say. SB 448 was chaptered in 2017, and that established the process for the state controller's office to identify and send notice to counties or LAFCOs regarding inactive special districts. So the process was not in place before 2017. And that actually came out of the Little Hoobers Commission report and recommendations, Little Hoover Commission. So that's kind of why it came to light in 2017, 2018. I believe that the county has at times considered use of CSA 3, but hadn't done so since the Sunel Valley fire.
Okay. I do have one further comment, but I will yield the floor to somebody else at this time.
Okay, commissioners, any further commissioner comments? Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, I have 2 points. Back to what Glenn was talking about with regard to the using the CSA for water projects. Would we start, I mean, obviously there's going to be benefit zones and property tax increases and all. What are we talking about as far as property tax money that we would be charging specific customers? Wouldn't it be better to use grant money through the state or other places? I just see this being very, very expensive if we're talking about just using property tax revenue like we're doing with the Sherwood Road project. Those are just one comments. The other one is in our draft minutes, now that have been approved, there was 22 comments that the commission made, and a lot of them just still hasn't been answered. And I'm just a little confused on this CSA, MSR, and SOI when it's not like our traditional MSRs, SOI. So, for instance, there was a comment about the study. The study proposes to reduce the county CSA area to the Sherwood FWG sphere of influence for emergency access, but yet we're still using the whole county as a CSA. There's other questions in here or comments that we made at the last meeting that just didn't have any answers to it. CSAs are intended to be smaller geographical areas, and it's unclear why the study covers the entire county. I'd like to have some answers to those if we could from either county staff or our staff. So it's just something that I think we need to get more, in my opinion, need more handle on it, why we're going this direction. I'm not against the CSA. I just think it needs to be, there's not much going on right now. We're doing MSR SOIs on it. So that's all I had. Thank you.
I will speak quickly to that. A application to engage a power under CSA would get into much greater depth based upon that application. And that is one of the answers staff has provided, that this is not the appropriate time to make those answers available based upon the fact that we lack an application to further fund that level of study. That would require an application fee, as you know, and plus our basic charges that go along with that based upon the work that's performed to that application that's specific. The Seminole Valley application shows that the county moved to expand CSA 3 throughout the county, but when setting up a benefit zone, for example, they call it CSA 3 Benefit Zone 1. So it's just the way the county approached the way they wish to use that CSA authority. I also believe a CSA can be formed by any county government at any time based upon need and applications in the future. So whether it's CSA 3 or some other specific CSA formation process, I think that would become available to the county if they see that need and the benefits reach the point where public will support through a 218 process. And I'll go to staff and then we'll go to Commissioner Farnberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to just point out that Commissioner Ward's questions are good, and I think staff has also struggled with this study because it is, it is not our normal process. Generally, when we are engaging in these studies, it is with agencies that provide services, and there's a wealth of information to review and analyze, which is not the case in this for CSA 3. So it is tricky, and I do want to acknowledge that we have struggled with it as well at a staff level. But even though it's not, the traditional process that we go through, it is still, it's a statutory obligation that we establish a sphere for every agency. And so that is something that we do need to do. We have tried to do that since 2019 and just had a number of stops and starts due to the pandemic. And so we are a little bit behind in even getting this far. But I do want to just clarify, the distinction between the whole county versus the Sherwood Road sphere of influence boundary. So this agency has a boundary that includes most of the county, and that's just what it is. And until a boundary change application comes forward, that's what it will remain to be. As in the context of this study, what we are looking for is what we recommend for the future of the agency. And at this time, there has been significant work on the part of the Sherwood Firewise community to work towards those emergency access routes. And so we have been able to identify that for the future of CSA3, and we've established a boundary, and we're proposing a sphere of influence for that purpose. But again, at this time, we have no ability to change the overall boundary that's already been established in 1985. We're just looking at what is the sphere of influence, which basically is our recommendation for the future boundary of this agency. And so that can change as we move forward. It's just the Sherwood Road Firewise community is the furthest along in us being able to identify an actual need at this time. So.
And we can go to Commissioner Farnberger and then to McGorty.
Mr. McGorty was before me.
Okay, that's fine.
So Commissioner Ward brought up a good point about water infrastructure and how expensive it is. What I'm finding is that at the moment, we're not very well organized to address water infrastructure in Mendocino County with no water agency. And there is some pushback from some of the coastal, well, particularly one coastal supervisor who doesn't think that we should worry about different parts of the county collectively. So, having the ability to raise funding to do studies and planning is pretty critical, and that's one of the things that everybody in the Russian River watershed in particular is finding right now, is that we need to have some interim funding just to be at the table for inclusion, for discussions for water rights and for planning. So any projects in the future would be pretty expensive and probably would require the creation of a statewide special district that would go across multiple counties. So, but just to be at the table is what we're concerned about, is having funding for it, because it's going to run into the millions. And, I personally support that the people who get the actual benefit of water should pay. But in when we look at the Russian River watershed, that's basically everybody who lives here. So we have water companies as well as agriculture, and eventually we will set that up. But in the interim, it might be useful to have some other ways to be able to raise funds. Presently, the county of Mendocino puts together $150,000 basically to cover our costs on water agency needs. This kind of pales in comparison to like Sonoma County, where 4% of their budget is associated with the Sonoma Water Agency. So this gives you a sense of kind of what our competition is doing, so to speak, when it comes to water rights. What I don't want to have happen is what happened in the 1950s, where essentially we ceded almost all the water behind Lake Mendocino to Sonoma County because we couldn't get an agreement in the county on how to move forward. That's my biggest fear, is that we'd once again lose out. And had we taken a more thoughtful approach, we could have not only had considerably more water from Mendocino County, like about 10 times as much, we also could have monetized that and had ways of being able to make the agency completely sustainable. We see other counties like Yuba County is a very good example, and Nevada County, that have fabulous water systems that they own the water in, and they monetize by selling and generating electricity. And while we couldn't necessarily do what they do, we could at least take care of ourselves. And that's my concern, is that at the moment there's no centralized thinking or planning on this. And so I also think about the town of Mendocino, which if they have to go out on their own to create reservoirs and water systems, they need to have some way of figuring out how they're going to monetize that. So that's kind of why I bring that up. I agree with Commissioner Ward. It's not like I expect everybody to pay for everything themselves. There are state grants. This is a time where state grants are pretty plentiful. It's the scariest thing I read yesterday as I was going through my emails is long-term forecasting is calling for yet another La Nina year based on present ocean temperatures that National Oceanic Atmosphere Administration is looking at. So we could be looking at yet another dry year. So this is going to really put everything to a major stress test, and we need to be planning now, and we need to be thinking about a thoughtful, cohesive response for the county, and all options should be on the table.
Commissioner Farnberger,
Thank
and
you.
then Roden.
So forgive my naivete. Ms. Filer, do you work for the County of Mendocino or do you work for the LAFCO Commission?
I am the analyst for LAFCO.
Okay, thank you. That's what I had thought. So I guess my question is kind of dovetailing into what Mr. Ward was speaking to, is that, you know, we asked many questions, and it was assumed by myself and I suppose the other board members or commission members that some at least of these questions would be answered. I don't feel that we've gotten input back on the actual specific questions that we've said, you know, and the concerns that we have about opening up the entire, well, the vast majority of the county to, you know, a single agency to now activate or to look at activating their powers for fire control and for water use. It concerns me that those questions were not actually addressed. It's kind of a case of if you build it, they will come, you know, because it doesn't seem that the county actually has any plans for the use of these areas other than, you know, the small tips of the hat that they have on this, on those two statements as far as water and fire. I would also question, and this might go to Ms. Hinman. So this is a county service area that will be controlled by the Board of Supervisors. And in fact, Ted Williams is the chair from District 5 and Mr. McGordy is the vice chair. Is it appropriate for them to be part of this discussion and or vote? Either Mulhern or McGordy, as they are directly related to this district and will be board members of this district. Or I'm sorry, CSA, not districts, sorry.
Thank you for that question. We do have our legal counsel, Marcia Birch, has joined us today and she can respond as well. But it is in the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act that it is not necessary for district or agency representatives to recuse themselves from decisions on MSR and sphere updates, provided that they do declare that they are on the board of those agencies. And Council Birch might be able to better respond.
But no, that is the response that Uma just summarized for you. It would create a lot of difficulty if they, you know, if they couldn't participate in these discussions, and I think that's why the act actually carves that out specifically.
Okay, so the discussion, fine, but actually on the moving forward and making decisions on this CSA, I mean, it would be like Mr. Gonzalez, you know, talking, you know, being part of the formation of his city, deciding on the LAFCO side that they're going to form that city. I mean, it just seems to me as, I mean, if you say that this is black letter, I'm good with that, but it just doesn't sound like there is black letter on this.
Well, it is something that is provided for in the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, that they do not have to recuse themselves on these decisions. I think as future decisions come forward, if there are specific facts that, you know, might make a situation feel more like it may not be required for them to recuse themselves, but there may be situations where they might. I can't think of a particular factual scenario where that would come up. But as far as this decision today, this is something that they are allowed to participate in. They don't have to recuse themselves.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the perspective. I'm going to yield to the floor.
Yes, and Commissioner Roden, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question for staff. What is the difference? Let me just get back to the page. It's pages 75 and 76 in our packet. And there's first the section 413 on study areas, and then 414 on areas of interest. And I don't understand the difference between those two. So that's my question. And if there, I mean, maybe there is no difference, but if there is, I would like an explanation. And then when that's answered, I have a comment.
Certainly.
Okay, Steph?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the distinction between a sphere of influence and an area of interest is very
No, not those two. An area of interest and a study area.
Oh, I apologize. So study areas just identify any communities within the agency boundary that stood out or needed to be addressed at any more in further detail. And then the area of interest basically, oftentimes they can be the same thing, but not always. In this case, they do appear to be very similar. But the area of interest are then from looking at those specific study areas, if we identify that they need to have enhanced coordination in moving forward, then we actually call those out in the mapping for the sphere of influence map. And so it basically just is a, a further identification for when we move forward with these both applications, and then just when there's interagency coordination, we can provide feedback that these are areas that have been identified by the commission that need further just collaboration between agencies. So again, in this case, there's not really a difference, but for other agencies, sometimes there is a difference between the study areas. Sometimes not all of them become an area of interest in the mapping.
Okay. I want to comment on Supervisor McGordy's concerns about funding for water in the inland Mendocino County. And I want to second, that concern, first of all. And I wonder if, by designating how did we do it? You guys called out the
Area of interest?
is that the only place I'm looking? You didn't put it as let's see. Well, anyway, is it? Is the water issue in the area of interest section? I'm trying to remember. I'm looking at it. But oh yeah, you have the water service gaps, and anyway, I think that to the extent that we can leave room in this MSR SOI update, that we can leave open the possibility that we could activate a mechanism to fund water infrastructure or water rights in here. So does the way that we've addressed or the concerns of McGordy leave that possibility open, or enable us to activate that capability if we need to, or if the county needs to?
I would step in before we go to Jerry, who will be next after me. But as you know, I requested the two maps, the two service, the fire and the water areas that both delineating where service is current and where it is not within the county area of responsibility, for just that purpose, to point out to the county that they have the ability to provide additional benefits through CSA law based upon need. And knowing that this drought and the state health requirement of 55 gallons per person per day is a determination by the state as a needed benefit to the citizens throughout the state of California. I certainly believe that water and CSA law have a nexus point in this case. And I'll go to Commissioner Gonzalez.
Well, wait, I have one more, if
Sure,
that's all right.
one
Yeah, I just want to express support for this, the SOI and MSR that staff has put together. I don't quite understand what some of the concerns are about this that other commissioners have raised. That a CSA is a mechanism for providing services where there isn't already, an entity there like a traditional district. So it's utilizing the powers of the Board of Supervisors to, be able to provide service for residents in unincorporated areas. So I really don't understand what the concerns are about, and I support us moving forward. Thanks.
I will note that Commissioner Ignacio has come into the meeting, and go ahead, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Actually, Commissioner Ward was ahead of me.
No, go
No,
ahead.
no, you were up
Okay.
first.
Go ahead.
All right. I again do understand the unintended consequences that may arise with this, but I also would support it. And I think I'll become a non-voting member here shortly. But I think it's a mechanism, like Mari had said, that it's out there in those islands out there in the county that provide a mechanism for those folks to get help when they need it. I would hate in the future for it to be used to block things like what Commissioner Frodenberg said, things like our current intertie with brook trails, those sort of things. But I don't think that's the intent. And I'm assuming that each and every time something came up under CSA 3 here, that it would come before LAFCO for some sort of analysis. So again, I would support this.
And before I go to Commissioner Ward, Uma, just so that we don't move beyond something you need to comment on, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Orth. I wanted to just speak again to the questions that have been brought forward and that were included in our meeting minutes from our last meeting regarding CSA 3 boundaries versus sphere. Many of the questions seem to be related to the confusion between the two. And I don't want to, I want to support Analyst Filer, our analyst who spoke to this already, but say again very clearly that CSA 3 is countywide except for the incorporated cities. That boundary was established long ago. LAFCO, outside of the application process, has no authority to change those boundaries of the CSA 3. We do have the authority to establish a sphere of influence that will allow for the provision of a service through an application for activation of latent powers specific to that sphere, which is what we have recommended, a service-specific sphere for the Sherwood Road pilot project. No other powers are active. Actually, no powers are active for the CSA 3 at this time. We are working with the county on developing a process for the activation of that latent powers for the Sherwood Road pilot project. But I just want to be clear that the CSA 3 has no powers at this time. And we have no ability to change the countywide boundary on the CSA. But we do have the ability to establish where certain powers can be activated through application by the county. And we can state where our proposed sphere is, where we are saying that we have looked at that area of the Sherwood Road pilot project and believe that that area is a good place to have that power activated upon application by the county. I don't know if that helps clarify it, but there's a lot of confusion between what we can and can't do about the CSA 3 boundary and what the sphere means. So hope I didn't muddy the waters. I hope that helps clear it up a little bit. And I will yield.
You did for me.
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
You muddied the water for me. First of all, I would say, Commissioner McGorty, thank you for your answer for me. I do believe what you said was very, very important, and I hope that the county will continue with their goals of getting a water agency and all that. We just need to start collecting more water somehow through reservoirs and whatnot. I don't think we're going to be able to do it through all these other projects. But saying that, I want to thank you for your comment. Regarding the CSA 3, I believe it began in the city of Point Arena. I'm not correct?
Yeah.
And then it expanded to the whole county. How and why did it do that? And I've been on LAFCO for several years, and I don't ever remember having an inactive district showing us that it's inactive. I didn't know about it until the Hoover report as well. So anyway, that's confusing. We started in Point Arena, and now it's the county-wide.
I do believe you're correct that CSA 3 was never a listed district in prior decades before LAFCO. We weren't not aware since the Sunel Valley issue, and that Supervisor Eddy was attempted to be contacted to get a greater historical basis for the going countywide, but we were not able to get those answers, I believe.
Yeah, who set those powers up, or those things? That's what I need to know. How did it go from there to there?
Well, as you see, the county acted on resolutions to engage and expand CSA 3 from the Point Arena zone to cover all 5 supervisory districts, to note to the supervisors that they had the ability to come before the board and specify a specific need for a benefit zone within their supervisory districts if needed. And, at this time, I'm going to ask the public to note themselves before we go back to commissioners. It is a public hearing, and I want to make sure we do have members of the public present. So please, members of the public, many of which represent various agencies, if you have any comments to make at this time during this public hearing, please come unmuted and we will recognize you. And I wait at least 10 seconds for that to happen. Okay, I'm not seeing any member of the public here today that wishes to speak. So go ahead, Commissioner Farnberger.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, scanning through the names, I think everybody works for one or more of these agencies, so it's kind of understood why they probably all have a pretty good grasp on this. For Ms. Filer, on page 77 of 142, which is the map that shows the service-specific sphere of influence for the Brook Trails, what do they call that? I can't remember what that's actually called. The Brook Trails Road, the secondary egress access, and then there's the Ukiah Eastern Hills area of interest. And I know that there's a very fundamental difference between sphere of influence of and area of interest. When it states that there's an area of interest, do we have any idea what their interest is there? Because both of those that area in particular is covered by both water districts and fire districts, as well as a state response area for the fire side.
I will say in Brook Trails' case that the county has determined that it would exercise a transportation power that Brook Trails does not hold.
Like I said, I was not speaking of Brook Trails. I'm talking about the Ukiah Eastern Hills area of interest.
Okay, I will let others answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Ukiah Eastern Hills area of interest is also intended for the emergency access route similar to the Sherwood Road study area.
Okay, so it falls under DOT. Well, at least their current interest is falling under DOT and the access and egress for citizens that live in these poorly served areas.
Exactly. So the Sherwood Firewise Community Emergency Access Project is much further along, and so we were able to recommend a sphere of influence for that boundary. The Ukiah Eastern Hills process is still in the early stages, and there's not a defined boundary for that area yet. So we have called it out as an area of interest. And again, it's for that emergency access route purpose. But yeah, it's not far enough along for us to establish a sphere for that at this time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because that area it's crossed over by the city of Ukiah, by Regina Water, Millview Water. There's a whole bunch of different Ukiah Valley Fire Authorities that are all got parts in that area. But if it's for transportation, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
I can address that a little bit too, since I'm involved with it. So we've received a grant from CAL FIRE to do some studies about creating emergency access and egress, because the area is one way in, one way out. And we've had a couple of fires last year that really showed the vulnerability of trying to get everybody out at one time, and we were able to successfully do it. But long term, with fire conditions being a little bit worse than they used to be, we want to explore all options so that in the event of a really big one, that we're able to get out. So there's multiple routes on the map that could be.
I'd gotten that from the explanation. Thank you.
Okay.
Further discussion by commissioners or the public. I will recognize anyone who wishes to unmute and come forward with their comment. Okay, I'm seeing none, and we have seated Commissioner Ignacio, so indeed, Commissioner Gonzalez, you will be not voting in this. And at this point, we need to move.
Chair, if I may, since I wasn't here for the whole public
yes.
hearing, I think it would be appropriate that Commissioner Gonzalez continues through this item.
I don't know if that's possible.
I can leave the meeting and come back when you guys want, but I wasn't here for the most part of the presentation. I do have the history and I understand, but I think it'd be appropriate if, since he commented also, that he takes the vote on this item, and I will take my seat on item 6.
I'll go to a question to Marcia. Is that appropriate? Is that something we can do?
I believe that it is. I've not had this situation come up before, but I do think that in light of the fact that the alternate was the one participating in the review and discussion of this item, it makes imminent sense to have that commissioner vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Ignacio, for bringing that up and making that point. And with that, I'm going to close the public hearing at 10:04. And I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2022-2302. This will, the commission as a lead agency will find the municipal service review is exempt from further review under the California Environmental Quality Act. The commission as lead agency finds the sphere of influence established is exempt from further review under the California Environmental Act. Let's see. This municipal service review and sphere of influence update is assigned the following distinct short-term designation of CSA 3 MSR SOI study 2022. And then various government codes are stated. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this resolution.
So move.
Today.
This is Roden, so move.
Commissioner Wood. And Mulhern is the second. And further discussion on the motion by any Commissioner Ward.
Yeah, I'm going to support it, but there's still a lot of questions that didn't get answered today from the questions I came up with. So I'm hoping that we could follow up with those, especially if somebody can still get a hold of Jim Eddy. Jim Eddy's still around, so find out how it had increased, but there's 22 points that we made that really does need some explanation, maybe not answers, but explanation. So, but I think this is important to move forward with.
Hopefully, some of those questions will be answered via applications in the future. And that, I think, is the intent of the commission. Let's see, any further questions? Members of the public present, if you wish to unmute and have any comment to this motion today, please do so. I'll wait 10 seconds. And then we'll go to Commissioner Farnberger. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to last second this, but I can't actually find this resolution. Where the heck is it? Oh, there it is. It's
attachment 3.
93 of 142.
That's correct.
Okay, so should we do the neg deck on the CEQA in the same thing, or shouldn't it be separate? Just a question. Typically that's done differently than or separately from other things.
That would be my suggestion. This is Marcia Birch, that you go ahead and do the notice of exemption as a separate item.
Because I don't want to, we've talked about this enough. I don't want to turn around and talk about it more if we don't have to.
Then I'll ask for the maker of the motion to remove item 1 and 2 from the motion for a later discussion and motion after this motion. Does the maker of the motion agree to that?
Yes.
And the second?
Yes.
Is that appropriate procedure? Marcia?
Yes, I think that's fine. Yeah, so you removed the first 2 items.
That's correct.
Okay.
And with that, then I'll call the question. Clerk Meadows?
Yes. Commissioner Mulhern,
Yes.
Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Fraunberger,
No.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Chair Orth.
Yes.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll look to a motion to approve number 1 and number 2, which are the exemption motion for the California Environmental Quality Act as stated in resolution, the resolution verbiage that we just considered.
So move.
Motion made.
Second.
And second. Further discussion on this motion? And thank you for the clarification, Commissioner Farnberger. Okay, let's go ahead and call the question. Clerk Meadows?
Okay. Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulhern,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Fraunberger,
Commissioner Fraunberger?
Oh. There we go. Sorry. I keep going back and forth the wrong way. Yes.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
Chair Orth.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you to staff for another MSRSOI study behind us. Mr. Ward, I hope you're smiling that we got another one past the commission. And so with that, let me find my agenda. And thank you, commissioners, as well for this long process. We've gone through multi-year process. With that, there are no workshop items today on number 6, and matters for discussion and possible action under 7A is future format of commission meetings. And I'll open this discussion to the commission. Well, first to Uma, of course.
Thank you, Chair Orth. This is being brought forward at the request of the commission at our June 6th meeting. This is a report and request for direction. Since April of 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, Mendocino LAFCO has conducted its public meetings via Zoom and teleconference remote only, consistent with the governor's executive orders, and we do continue that under AB 361. There are 3 options for meetings. We have the virtual teleconference meetings, which we have been doing via Zoom. We have in-person meetings, and then there's also a hybrid meetings that are being utilized by a number of agencies, where there is both an in-person option as well as providing the teleconference option. We did look into venues. The County Board of Supervisors chambers is not yet available for other agency use. They are continuing to work on their protocols and policy, and they hope to have that in place for in sometime in August or soon thereafter. And that will set the parameters and the usage requirements for use of the chambers by outside agencies. Staff have indicated that there will be a reservation and cleaning fee associated with that use. To date, we have had use of the chambers for free, so this will be a new charge. If you look on page 96 of your agenda packet, there's a table with a couple of other venues that we have identified. We do have the Ukiah Valley Conference Center, where we could have use of some of the smaller rooms that would be included in our office lease fee. We have available to us at no cost 4 meetings per month in the use of the smaller rooms that have a capacity of 12 to 20 persons. There's also the UC Davis, or not Davis, UC Extension Department of Agriculture building has a conference room that is available for use. That has a capacity of about 35 people. That would also be free to us. However, we would have to provide our own technology, and that is done through contract with the county's IS department. The fee would be a little bit higher for use of the Department of Agriculture conference room and for the Ukiah Valley Conference Center for travel to the site and set up and take down of the equipment. Right now, the county IS charges for use of the county board chambers per meeting run about $150 to $250 per meeting. For use of the other 2 venues, it would be about $150 more.
Did you check council chambers, Ukiah City Council again?
We did, and those are not available to us at this time. I don't know when they'll be allowing outside use, but that was the indication that we received. And so that concludes my presentation. If there are any other questions or additional follow-up that the commission would like to direct staff.
I think the timetable stated that the county is moving forward. There's clearly also the Mendocino Council of Governments that also uses the chamber following our meeting on the first Monday each month. So both agencies are interested in the county moving forward in a timely manner. Clearly, under the pandemic protocols, the larger the room, the better, especially with tall ceilings and good circulation system. So with the fact the county is moving forward, I think we should probably stay the course as we're doing. But of course, I'm opening the discussion to commissioners now. And so if there's another viewpoint, please come forward.
So I'm just curious for
go ahead.
Yeah, for the commissioners who live kind of remotely, is a hybrid system of interest to you that you don't have to make the drive? How do you feel about that? Or do you think it's essential together?
I'd be happy to chime in on that, Chair.
Please do.
I think I have the furthest distance of travel of the commission currently. My interest in the hybrid system is more for the public than it is for myself. I don't mind making the travel. And at the same time, it is convenient to have this, but I think the hybrid system would allow more participation from the public than we've seen in historical meetings and chambers. And Glenn, does that kind of give you a sense? I mean, it's a duty. It's something that the South Coast knows. And I'm sure other remote commissioners know that you travel in for a meeting of this importance.
Yeah, I think your answer is great because I think it does open up the possibility for more public participation, which I think is good.
And I will speak to this in that Brick Trails recently had a hybrid meeting in which we had Brick Trails ownership of lots goes around the world. And we actually did have people from other countries, from the other coast, from statewide participate because it was a hybrid meeting. And so I'm also very strongly supportive of going forward with the county chambers and a hybrid meeting potential technically being provided. I think that would be a benefit to the public and the ability to participate in our meetings, as well as commissioners when they need to remotely participate, that will become available as well. Of course, state law, I believe the state is working on this right now, and they will be defining the parameters in which that can occur. And Commissioner Roden.
In case you're looking for a consensus, I want to say that I agree with what's been said so far. Hybrid meetings.
And if any commissioner has a different, go ahead, Commissioner Ignacio.
Not different. I am completely in agreement with Commissioner Roden. I was going to comment that since this commission is made up of 2 active supervisors and an alternate, is the county going to share 1/3 of the meeting costs?
Through their annual contribution to LAFCO.
Thank you. Yeah, we all contribute. Thank you very much, Director Ignacio.
I would also like to say that the experience of LAFCO meeting in county chambers is that there's been able to take short breaks when technical or questions arose that where the supervisors could go back into their offices and talk to staff and come back with answers and or copies sometimes. I mean, there are different requirements, and having two to three supervisors in the chamber in the meeting with their offices just through a door has been of some value. Commissioner Fornberger.
Yeah, I think I've made. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
You're muted.
Okay, good.
Unmuted. Yeah, we hear you.
I think you all know my feeling about these remote meetings. You know, I do appreciate the fact that it gives folks that may not have the wherewithal or the ability to attend a meeting at a distance the option of watching the meeting and potentially participating, but I feel stifled by them. I think it's a stopgap, and it should be only used as a stopgap because the actual true discourse between people is so limited through this electronic means that it can be infuriating at times, and it's hard to get your point across when somebody else when you're trying to speak. And maybe I'm the only person like that, but I do like the fact that people that can't travel can actually watch and participate potentially. So anyways, thank you.
One advantage of going back is I can actually get 2 signatures on a check after the meeting.
Yeah. And I will say from personal experience right now, seeing my daughter and grandkids in 3D from being present here is so much preferable to Zoom. But I also would have to say that having Zoom meetings with family in Sweden and New Zealand and the US has been an eye-opener. It has provided for at least connectivity between ourselves in these challenging times. I don't believe we need a vote on this matter. It's just direction to staff. And I think we'll be looking for the county to move forward in making available the chambers as soon as possible so that Commissioner Farnberger can have his face-to-face time with all of us. And with that, any other comments before I move on? Any public comments? Just unmute yourself if you have a comment to make. And I'm seeing none. So let's go ahead and move to item 8, information and report items, starting with the work plan, current and future proposals. There is a written, and Uma, go ahead and present your matters, our work plan.
Thank you, Chair Orth. So we do have one new application. This time we have received a partial application for the City of Ukiah annexation of the Western Hills properties.
You are cutting in and out at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Is this any better?
If you move your mic a little bit closer to you, it'd probably work better.
Okay. I'll rearrange for a second. Here we go. Okay, so we have one new application, the City of Ukiah's annexation of the Western Hills properties. That is a partial application. We are waiting for some additional materials. We have 2 applications that are right now proceeding through the tax share negotiation process with the county and are incomplete until we receive that documentation. We have the Elk Community Services District activation of latent powers for wastewater services and the City of Ukiah's annexation of the city-owned properties. We have also one additional potential future proposal. We have provided information to the Anderson Valley Community Services District regarding annexation of their existing sphere of influence. They are preparing their application materials and we will be working with them on that submittal. For the work plan, we are happy to say that we've completed another MSR sphere update. We are continuing to work with the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District and the City of Ukiah on the MSR and sphere updates for those 2 agencies. We are still working towards a tentative joint workshop in mid to late August of this year. So next month, we have an administrative draft that we are working with the sanitation district staff to pull together, and we are also working with the City of Ukiah staff on the administrative draft for the city. Let's see, on pages 102 and 103 is the updated tentative schedule for both the sanitation district and the city MSR sphere updates. And I don't have anything further unless there are questions on this item.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Ward. You're muted still.
Sorry. I read the out of area service agreement with the City of Ukiah. I think it was approved on June 6th. Is that correct, Uma?
Correct. That is an agreement between the city and the sanitation district on how they will proceed with providing service outside their boundaries. And it was approved by the city and the sanitation district in early June.
And the sanitation district won't pursue, or is it the city won't pursue detachment? Which one was it? I don't have the agreement in front of me.
The agreement speaks to not pursuing the detachment of sanitation district served areas from the city until certain thresholds are met, at which time the sanitation district will support the city's either annexation and merger or a subsidiary district situation upon certain thresholds.
Okay, we have an application with the City of Ukiah for, let's see if I can read it here. City of Ukiah detachment of the Sand District, and there's still some funds available. Shouldn't that just be refunded back if that's not going to happen anymore?
Once we receive a formal letter of withdrawal from the city, then we can refund those that money.
Yeah, since it looks like it's not going forward. The other one is the Sand District's annexation of City of Ukiah. Although there's no funds being available, I think that could be closed as well, correct?
Sorry, which one was this?
The Sand District annexation of City of Ukiah. I don't know, it's A 2021-02, I believe. Need better glasses.
We don't have an application from the sanitation district to annex the city. We had the fire district, and we did complete that one. The Ukiah Valley Fire District annexed the city, and we completed that one.
Oh, okay.
There's a zero balance.
Yeah, maybe I was looking at another one. Anyway, that agreement was good to know, and but we're still going to pursue an MSR SOI for the Sand District then.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And it is.
That's all I had.
I was just going to say, I want to thank staff and the commission for working through the out of area service agreement process to further bring forward both the City of Ukiah and Sand District discussions. I think it's helped move the ball in the Ukiah Valley on those issues. And I'm very appreciative to all involved in moving this forward. And further commissioner comment? And Uma, do you have anything further to say on the work plan?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda then is the 4B June 20, I'm sorry, I'm on the consent calendar by mistake. The correspondence, 8B, have there been correspondence?
Yes, thank you. Included in your agenda packet.
Correspondence, I believe, is a comment letter.
Sorry, Chair Orth. There was a delay there. On page 104 of your agenda packet is a response from LAFCO staff regarding the City of Ukiah's notice of preparation of the Ukiah General Plan draft EIR. So this is an initial comment letter regarding the kind of in response to the scoping process for the city's general plan EIR. We will have another opportunity to provide comments once the draft EIR is released for public comment.
Questions or comments from commissioners on the letter? Okay, I'm seeing none. So then we'll move to 8C, CALAFCO business and legislative report. And thank you, by the way, for those comments to the City of Ukiah.
So starting on page 110 of your packet is a series of documents from CALAFCO. The CALAFCO U webinar on the Revenue and Tax Code Section 99 is on July 21st, and that's on 110 of your packet. This is free to CALAFCO members. I think it'll be really informative on the tax share negotiation process and the LAFCO perspective on that. It is open to anyone. It is free to CALAFCO members. So on page 111 is the 2022 CALAFCO conference flyer and information. We have budgeted for 5 to 6 commissioners to attend, plus the EO. So that will be in Newport Beach, October 19th through 21st. The early registration is by July 31st, so the end of this month, and we do save about $40, I believe, $30 for registering early. So the registration can be done by commissioners on their own, or we can take care of it and then would reimburse it, expense it to LAFCO. So either way, if folks could let us know and perhaps have that conversation of which commissioners would be interested in attending.
And I have a question. Talking about hybrid meetings, are these breakout sessions recorded and made available to commissioners after the conference period?
The meetings themselves, I don't believe will be recorded. However, the materials that are provided, like the PowerPoints during the sessions, will be available.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, are there any commissioners wishing to indicate interest in attending this conference? Okay. We have one thus far. Commissioner Gonzalez, are you indicating interest?
I've been to a couple in the past, but I would defer to any members that haven't been.
Well, we have room for 4. So Commissioner Roden?
I'm interested. I can't commit exactly right now, but I will before the early registration.
Okay. Any others at this time? It's a little too far out for me to consider. Scott?
It's a little, only if I'm not squeezing out somebody else that hasn't attended before. I always find them informative, and it's good to network with nearby LAFCOs.
And thank you for your interest, because that means I don't have to go. So the vice chair can hold the wand for Mendocino County. So thank you. And any further CALAFCO business we need to consider?
Yeah, on page 114 of your agenda packet is the CALAFCO board recruitment. We have two board vacancies at the end of this year for the northern region. That'll be the public and the city member. The current public is from Nevada County, and that's Josh Sussman. And the current city member is Blake Inscore from Del Norte. So if anyone, any of our public or city members are interested in being nominated for the CALAFCO Board of Directors, we can submit that upon the commission direction. And finally on page 126, CALAFCO has also issued their Achievement Award call for nominations. The categories are identified on page 131 of your agenda packet, and past winners are on page 135. And I encourage the commissioners to reach out to me with any questions. I don't know the nomination deadline, but I can send that out to folks. I didn't look that up.
That's Friday. That'll be on Friday, August 12th.
Thank you.
I'm going to move backwards a bit and ask if any city member or public member wishes to be nominated by this commission for the board of directors seats that are opening up. Okay, I'm seeing none, Uma. So we will go ahead with your report.
I see Commissioner Roden.
Yeah, through the chair, that's okay.
Yes. Yes.
I noticed when reading through this that Steve Lucas is executive director. I mean, of LAFCO, of CALAFCO. I thought there was a new person. There was a new person that replaced Pamela. Did that person not work out, or did I misread it?
No. I think he manages the northern region. He's the executive director for the northern region. Northern region representatives. Yeah. Okay. So Renee, I think her name is Renee LaRoche, and she is the executive director for CALAFCO. And that is a paid position.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Uma, go ahead then. Is that it for CALAFCO?
So I have just two brief legislative updates. SB 938 was signed by the governor on July 1st. So that is the bill that revises the protest provisions for LAFCO initiated dissolutions. And those now will align with the standard protest provisions. And the AB 2957, which was the omnibus bill for LAFCO.
I'm sorry, we're not getting you. you're broken up really bad, and it's becoming incomprehensible. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what to do
Okay.
for you, but it's not coming through clearly.
Okay. I can send an update by email.
I think it must be your microphone. Just seems to not be very working well.
I don't know. I'm in the office, so I'm not sure what I can try turning off my video. I don't know if that will help the bandwidth at all.
No, it's still doing it. I think because you're in such an empty office, or there's a lot of bounce, and the software is trying to mute the echo, and it's muting you at the same time. So I don't have a solution for you. Just maybe a little bit closer and a little bit softer, or a little,
Is this any better?
no.
This wouldn't be a problem if we were in the same room.
This is true.
I'm not sure what to suggest. I'm sorry. I
That
don't have any
works.
of the.
Now you're working. Now you're working. So talk like that.
Okay, I didn't change a thing, but glad to know both of us. So the omnibus bill has passed also. And that's
Okay.
all I have for CalAFCO.
Okay, then let's go to your executive officer's report while we have you.
Okay, so we're working to wrap up our fiscal year financials and reporting. Our application activity has been high, and we have been working on that as well as focused on the work plan. We've been responding to numerous inquiries regarding reorganization proposals for providing park and rec services down to the South Coast, specifically regarding Bower Park, which is a county-owned park in the Gualala area. Just wanted to note that due to the Labor Day holiday, the September meeting will be on September 12th. At this time, the agenda for August 1st is very light, and we will continue to coordinate with Chair Orth to determine whether or not there will be a need for that meeting, and we will keep the commission posted on that. Then a reminder, again, that the Ukiah and the Sanitation District municipal service review and sphere documents are moving along, and we are hoping to schedule a joint public meeting for later in August or potentially the September 12th meeting. And we will also work with Chair Orth and the agencies to schedule that. And that's all I have.
And I will pipe in that I'm hoping to avoid an August meeting, traditionally a vacation period for many. And because the schedule is light, if it works with UMA and staff, who can get a lot more done without needing to put a whole packet together until September 12th, that will be the preference going forward, unless, again, something comes forward that needs to be addressed immediately. Unless I hear from you commissioners at this moment in time that you really want that August meeting. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raising their hands that they're demanding an August meeting. So Uma, I think we've been given direction on that.
Thank you.
So moving forward, are there any committee reports that need reporting out at this time?
Nothing to report from the executive committee. No meeting was had.
Thank you. And policies and procedures, work plan ad hoc. Okay, then we will move to commissioner reports, questions or comments. Any commissioner wishing to make a comment? Report? Well, thank you, because I'll tell you, I'm getting heated being outside. It's getting a little warm in here. So I'm looking to adjourn to the September 12th meeting.
So moved.
At which, okay, thank you. There's, all right, thank you. Thank you all for coming today.
Bye.
Be well,
you.
everyone.
Bye all.